Hi, now we will look into how to do an audio configuration for different digital audio workstations. Let's start with reviewing the configuration that I had. So for the simple case, I will use Digitakt as it has 12 channels in and 2 channels out. And this will be simulating the kind of a basic sound card in general, where you have like 2 channels or two channels in and 2 channels out. To show how to configure a complex audio setup, I will use the aggregate device that I have created named PR Audio. This device has pretty much 58 channels in and 48 channels out, and it is aggregating Universal Audio Thunderbolt devices, a drum machine, and the drums. So this is a good one to use for a complex audio configuration in digital audio workstations. As we now have our background covered, let's jump into Studio One to see how it is configured for the audio. Okay, let's start Studio One to see how the audio is configured within Studio One. And no, I don't want to connect at this time any external devices, so I'll just continue. And let's create a blank project to start with. Let's create 2 audio tracks that we can then use to map external audio in and audio out. So let's just create two audio tracks, and let's go with let's go with this. And as an input, I select none at this point. So where does the audio configuration takes place in Studio One? Firstly, you need to go to Preferences, and over there, if you have if you are in a General tab, then you need to go to Audio Setup. And from there, you can basically then go into and select the device that you want to use. By default, I have, of course, my aggregate device over here, but let's go and use and do the simple one first. So we will use Digitakt. And now it will change into Digitakt. And then I can say OK, but I can also go into Song Setup, where I can then do all the port mappings for the Digitakt. So that's basically one way to go, but let's find another route. So I say OK here, so I have now my playback device and my recording device defined as a Digitakt. And then when you are in a project, you basically, when you go into the mixer, so let's go into a audio setup, and this is where you can find all the port mappings for in Studio One. So it's similar like in Pro Tools. However, these are now all wrong, as it is kind of reflecting my old configuration. So what you can do is basically just select the ones that you don't want to use and just remove. And then of course you can start adding a mono channel or a stereo channel that you will use and map the ports from your device. And luckily Digitakt is nicely showing these, as we have seen in other sessions as well. So if I would like to now map a mono in kick, the stereo is fine. I'm good with that one. So let's go and add a mono, and let's add it a kick. And then another one that we have used is basically the external inputs in Digitakt to get the Moog mother in. So I'll add another mono channel and name it like Moog. Here also you need to drag and drop it into the right place in order to get it correctly mapped. So it will always give you the first free slot as Pro Tools, so you need to click on it to move it into the port that you want to map it into. So now you have actually, now we have basically three routes in place. So we have the stereo with all in, then we have the kick and the Moog. And here also now this is a song setup, but you can make this as a default. So when you are working with your projects, you can make this as a default. So every time when you open up a new project, it will use this mapping as a default. Also here you can actually export and import these mappings, so you can save them for later and recall them from the file. I'll show that when we go to the complex example how to do it exactly. Then on outputs, basically it doesn't have anything else than the main output as we have seen, so I just select these ones and just remove them because they are unnecessary. So this is now basically how the Digitakt configuration looks like, with stereo mapped and two mono channels, so one for kick and one for the Moog. So now when I say OK, these mappings will come valid. And then when we look into the tracks, I can now go here and select basically select the kick or Moog. But if I change this into stereo, which takes place here, then I have the stereo channels that I can use. So I have now the main input coming here. It will also arm this automatically. So this channel is now armed, and if I now play something from the Digitakt, it will you can hear it over here. Again, if I would like to just hear the kick, I can go here and arm it and see how it basically sounds. Or then again, if I would like to see how the Moog sounds, and hear the Moog playing. So this is basically how you do that. Then regarding on routing things out, currently we don't have anything else than the main. So that's something that is the only output channel, as you can remember. So we have only the main, and that's it. So we can't really out anywhere else than to main. Of course, these channels could be routed to a bus in a mixer, but that's something that we will look later. Now we just focus on our audio configuration for external inputs and outputs. All right, let's reset this and say that there is nothing coming in for these tracks, and let's go and change the preferences so that we will use the more complex aggregate device that I have, and say OK. Now when I go into I/O settings, I see that I have all these ports available, but nothing is actually mapped. So, or basically the first line is mapped, so the stereo is mapped, and the rest is basically blank. So now I would need to remap everything in order to take them into use, but as I have done this before, I can now import a setup that I have had. So I can go here, import an I/O configuration, then I select the configuration that I want to import, and I say open, and then actually I have all the defined routings now in place. So this is actually extremely convenient in a way that you can get these mappings stored and recalled when you need them. Also, when we go to the output configuration, I can see that these lines that we have used elsewhere are going out as well, and They are going to external effects that I've been using in my music creation. So I can send things into to utilize like Moog effects or a Boss vocoder or whatever. So this is from the complex configuration point of view. And then of course adding these and removing these channels and routings is extremely, it's same as in a simple model. So there is nothing special into it. And then of course when you have a stereo route, you see that that you have the left and right mappings over here. I do see that I have a name wrong here. So let's fix that one, and also I have the name wrong here. Also, I needed to have like based on my own standards, like all caps for that one. And then now I could actually then export these settings and say that this is my version 2. So now I have saved also this configuration, and I can make this as a default. So when I make it as a default, as said, it will be a default for all of my projects that I create, and I don't need to kind of recall it for each and every project that I start. So that's also extremely handy. And this is the way you basically configure the audio routings in Studio One. Let's just still review that how things work here. It's not that different. So like what we had here is basically that when we have the stereo channel, you see all the stereo routings that you can use, and then when you have a mono, you see the monos. But let's have this on stereo, and then as we have used basically the master coming in as a stereo from 8S, and then this we have used, for example, for the kick drum as mono channel example. So let's play things from TR-8S, and again now it works okay. And then if I disarm this one and hear what the kick says, then I hear the kick sound. And then now basically, let's stop this. Now if I would like to basically route something out, I could go here and say that instead of this going into main, it actually goes to my output routings that I have defined. Like if I would like to use the effects from Virus, Access Virus XL, I could basically then route the audio into it and route it in back through Virus and utilize its effects. So this is how I get then route it out from the system. In a sense, now when it comes to audio configuration in Studio One, we are pretty much done here. This concludes configuring the audio settings in Studio One. Next we will do it in Universal Audio Luna. We have 3 more to go, Luna, Cubase and Reason. Remember to subscribe for the channel. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye now.